Okay, welcome everybody to this webinar by Dynamic Foundry Group. As we all know, this is the 50th webinar by Dynamic Foundry Group. So, heartily congratulations to everybody for giving good support and participation in all the webinars so far. And in the period of last 4 months, I've conducted this 50 webinars. So, I think it's a good achievement by Dynamic Foundry Group. And basically, it's a good achievement by all the speakers and the participants. Without them, it was not possible. So thank you very much for giving your time and great support as well. And hope that it will be continued in future programs also. So let us start with today's topic, that is ColdBox Core Technology Part 2. Last time we have a very active session. And after that, we have decided we will go for one more session specifically on question and answers what we have received from the participant and some of the questions which we have not answered last time. So what we have done, we have collected all the questions, we have shared it with our panels, and panel experts have given their their question answers and their experts' opinion on these questions, and we are going to see it on PPT as well. So let us start with same. So first of all, we ask Mr. Deshpande sir to start with his session. Question first was, how much should be gas content after mixing?
Hello, good evening everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening. Will you start?
Yes.
I think first we should thanks to Mr. Kulkarni, because he is taking much efforts to arrange these webinars, very much efforts, and continuously he is doing. So we must give thanks from my side also, participants.
Good woman.
I think Gokhale is joining, I think.
Yeah, I have joined. I can't see the screen.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah. Hello.
Sir,
Kulkarni.
Yes, continue, sir.
No, some disturbance is there, na, basically.
Can do one thing.
I think they can switch off their individual while.
All panelists, you can unmute yourself because you are co-host. Other people cannot able to unmute themselves. So Deshpande sir, unmute yourself and start.
I can hear also, basically. So question one was, how much should be gas content after mixing? In ColdBox core, it is around 9 cc to 11 cc at 985 degrees centigrade as per resin addition. I have given other also, second. Next slide, please. Novec 2 part 11 to 14 cc, shell core 14 cc to 25 cc as per resin addition and quality of resin. Jacket resin is different, low gas and strength. Of course, it will depend upon AFS and distribution. And additionally, I can add, if you CO2 is there, CO2 sand gas will be around 6 to 8 cc. That much I can add. Next. The question was, we are using almost 35% of cold box core without painting, and we do not have any issue with surface finish. So my question is whether it is necessary to paint cold box core, and if yes, why? The answer which I have given, cold box core painting is essential due to following reason. AFS number is normally 44 to 55. Fines are less, and flowability is less, hence compaction is poor, resulting metal into porous zone, which leads to bad surface finish and high millipore value. Or surface finish itself from the inside of core will be poor, and millipore value also will affect, because sand and metal, if it is comes together, that create the problem. And millipore value is most important as far as automobile components are concerned, because that sand if goes in the gear zone, then gears are getting damaged or wear is there. Transmission of gear also, that will create the power loss also. That's why we have to do the painting of cold box core. Next. Question 3 was, which is what is the benchmark for cold box core? Bench life also give benchmarking for wastages rejection. The first will be bench life of cold box will vary as per ambient condition. In summer, 8 days, in monsoon and rainy season, core to be used after drying in 4 hours. That's what I have written it. But as per humidity, in winter, dew is noticed in early morning, which may also create the problem. Hence, first shift core to be used in the night shift. But latest study, hello?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Sri Hari Gokhale, she started his screen.
No, I'm seeing my screen only.
No. I am seeing Gokhale screen. Now you can. Benchmark of cold boxes. I think Mr. Sandeep Kulkarni has done a very good survey of various foundries. I think he can also elaborate findings all over India. He has done the survey, so that will be more better, I think.
We will show that survey report at the end. There will be
Yeah.
around 14 questions, and all 14 questions will have a survey report at the end, feedback of almost 75 foundries from all over India.
Yeah. Next question. Normally, the mixed sand to be used in 30 minutes. Bench life of cold box mixed sand is subject to ambient condition. Even leakages from core should also affect bench life. If the cores are smaller, try to mix small batches at even interval of say 20 minutes. The cores having thickness less plus weight less, and number of cavities are less. Number of cavities. So at that time, we have to follow this practice. Prepared core storage life also depends upon ambient factor. In high humidity areas like Kerala, Chennai, the storage life will be around 3 days. If cores are painted and dried thoroughly, it can go up to 6 days. Before using stored core, it has to be slightly warmed and use it. We'll see the Kulkarni's report also. Wastage and rejection will vary foundry to foundry as per tooling design, maintenance of core box and shooter. It should be around 5% as per Indian tooling condition, basically. Not like Europe. Joshi sir, having more knowledge than me, I appreciate his contribution to cold box core technology, and he has proved also his ability by achieving the rejection 1 or 2%, that I know. But whatever foundries I am visiting, I am seeing the tooling condition. Accordingly, I have given my opinion. Wastage will include shooting candle, sand leakage, broken core during handling at various stages, excess production of cores, suddenly schedule cancellation, etc. Next question. In core print, we normally go for double print, but in core shooting, head is required to double step to avoid core dressing at casting surface. Normally, double print design is required to avoid core dressing. That is true, basically. But in all the cores, it is not possible. Some critical cores are done. But all cores are normally what I have seen. Those are of single print only. Especially core height is more than double print is required. Next way. We are using alcohol-based paint and ignite immediately after painting. Whether it is required to reheat cores again when used approximately after 24 hours. Already that answer is came in question number 3. Thinner base painting is done later 24 hours. Core heating is required in monsoon where humidity is more. Spirit-based paints are to be used by brushing or over-pair method. Avoid dipping practice. Keep the viscosity slightly on higher side. Ignite the core after 2-3 minutes. Make sure that solvent is not getting penetrated too much. If the ambient is too humid, it is always recommended the cores and use. And one point I would like to add, because what the thinner what we are getting, alcohol based thinner what we are getting, in sometimes basically the paint thinner is having water also, type of some water is there, and it is better to check that thinner by using 541 paper what we are using in the lab. If we put a drop on it, it should get completely dried. The paper should not wet. If paper is wet, then the moisture is there or water is there. So that care has to be taken, especially for thinner base paint. Normally, thinner base paint, we are getting solid one. We have to add the paint to achieve the viscosity as per size of core, type of core. Viscosity will be some different. To add that, we add thinner. At that time, this problem comes. So please note this and take care. Question 6. In core box core assembly, one has to use core gum. After applying it, what should be the minimum time it should be kept for drying? There are 2-3 types of core gums available. Most popular and cheapest is sodium silicate base. This requires heating to get good bond. Nowadays, we have self-setting core gum which cures in about 15 to 30 minutes. But if silicate gum is used, then heating is definitely required. Otherwise, core-to-core assembly, what we are doing, that small core maybe get disturbed and it will lead to the dimensional rejection. So now it is better to use self-setting core nowadays, which is available. The setting time of the gum depends on the binder, mostly the silicate base. Please refer the supplier instruction. If the print is deep and larger area, better dry it in oven or leave it for longer times to dry. Also look for gum overflow. This also can lead rejection because of blowhole. That is most important. Excess gum has to be taken care of. That has to be removed. That is most important. It gives directly blowhole. The mixer size is 100 kg, core weight is 2 to 3 kg. What should be the ideal one-time sand batch mixing weight in this case, considering bench life? What type of core you are shooting, how many cavities are there? If it is double cavity or multi-cavity, then cycle time close to close is 2 minutes, then you need to reduce batch size considering maximum bench life. Prepared sand is 30 minutes, core cycle time 2 minutes, core weight is 2 kg, maximum efficient sand mixing per batch will be 15 core, that is 30 kg per mix. This has to be taken, this has to be followed, I think. I hope it is clear. If any question is there, we can, again, we can go to the, at last we can answer the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions we will take at the end again. Yeah. Joshi sir.
Very good evening to you.
Yes, good evening, sir.
And again, here we are to reply to your queries. Someone has asked, please brief about LPP and HPP. Basically, LPP and HPP are the word used low pressure purge pressure and high pressure purging pressure. See what happens when amine, gasified amine, when it is passed through the core, it is called as a process of purging. That amine and air is purged out. Initially, when at the entry point of the core, the sand is not set. It is yet to develop the strength. And if you apply more pressure there, you get some sort of depression on the body of the core. If it's a gate, fine, you get lesser gate height. But if it is on a horizontal parted mold, and if you are making core without candles, you get depressions onto the core body. So what they have done is they put LPP as 0.5 to 1.2 bars and HPP as 2.5 to 3.5 bars as said there. Okay. And there are two different valves available into the cold box core shooters where you are supposed to set it. But in advanced machines, this LPP, HPP, it is infinitely variable and could be controlled through programmable logic controller, PLC. Okay. Next question is, what should be the ideal one-time sand batch mixing weight in this case considering bench life? According to me, considering Indian conditions in all the seasons, whether it is winter or summer or whatever it is, you should have a mix of 10 minutes time. That is, if you are making a core weight of 3 kg and if you are shooting a single core, then your maximum batch size should be of 30 kg. You can have little more, but then there is a risk. This is the safe working condition. I have seen in the North India where they work from almost 4 degrees centigrade in the wee hours of early morning to almost 49.3 degrees. I have worked there. So the behavior on an average, it has to be this. Next. Which metal is most suitable for material for cold box core making? Cast iron, AGN, steel, non-ferrous. Most suitable material for cold box core making, I remember I had visited one Spanish core box manufacturer, which is Aurenac. It is of the same company who makes Loramendi, machines. And they have their own patent shop called as Aurenac. And that man, the one who met me, he has their designer. He has made a classic experiment. He has made 2-inch by 2-inch size pieces of every material, right from cast iron to HG iron to OHNA steel to mild steel, then DIN 1.2311, and then polyurethane. And he shot sand jet onto them for specific hours. And surprisingly, it proves or it shows that polyurethane has got maximum resistance to sand wear. Only thing is that, yes, if it is made properly. If it is not made properly, then you get soft spots on the body of the core box where sand tends to stick. And second guiding this thing for is the volume of cores and life of the core box you are expecting. For lesser volumes, yes, you can go for aluminum core box, which has got around 40,000 blows. Then cast iron can give you around 70,000 blows. I'm talking about safe life. Yes. And whereas materials like DIN 1.2311 can expect 1 lakh blows, PU can give you 1.25 lakh blows, provided the core box is very well designed, very well rigged, and very well supported. Next. Yes. Here I have given core box material selection criteria is one is volume of the cores. Second one is a dimensional consistency you want. Third one is surface finish of core and casting. Fourth is consistency of core properties. Fifth, collapsibility. Sixth, washing practice convenience. Hey, what is this? This is not relevant here. Can we go to next slide, please? Okay. Can you give us some more inputs about the core box tooling design, especially to get good quality cores? Some more tips and guidelines. Actually, from Kolhapur, one Marathi journal is being published every month. I have written one article from them which will come into this month's journal. It is core box design guidelines, but it will be in Marathi, and I am told that they are going to translate it into different languages like Gujarati and Tamil even.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Yes, he said that they are going to translate all of that. But then subsequently, there are good guidelines available. I would, as I had told already, you know, this topic is very vast. We can conduct a whole day of workshop on design of tool. For one simple reason. One component like block or head has got something around 900 plus dimensions. Each core box, from smaller to larger, the things can differ. But for a block type of core box, which I am more conversant with, there are almost 200 or more components go into that core box. And so many dimensions. So almost you land up to 3,000 to 4,000 dimensions. And deciding dimensions is not a simple and distinct thing. You have to give a lot of thought for that. And for that, that can be discussed. So that takes time. But still, anyone who has some specific interest on specific this thing can contact me, and most probably Ashland Chemicals have come up with one very good guidelines on design and development of tooling, which one should refer. I think I had shared it there. Next question is, cold box machine cleaning activity is one of the important aspects in machine maintenance. What are important areas in this process of cleaning? One is core shooter cleaning, general machining cleaning once a shift, sand magazine. Sand magazine is the one which has to be absolutely mirror finished from inside. Anytime if anyone goes and opens the machine and gets into it, sand magazine must have mirror finish from inside. Second thing, as far as the blow plate is concerned, especially in case of horizontally parted where you are using blow tubes, the inner diameter of blow tubes have to be absolutely clean, mirror finish. If both of these things are maintained, you can get good dense solid cores consistently. If any of these, if any of these fail, then sorry, you won't get good cores. And then people tend to increase pressure of the shooting pressure of the machine, and they land up in some other problems like leakages of seals. Your air starts leaking from the seals. So again, you get unfilled, or you start getting spongy cores. If you use higher pressure for blowing a core, you can also expect wipe off of the resin. That means when suddenly we travel in a car or in a bus, and if the brake is applied, there is a law of inertia. The same law of inertia acts on the sand which is going into the core box, and if it is pushed under higher pressure, means velocity is more, and the moment the sand goes and stops at the wall of the core box, resin leaves the sand grains and get deposited onto the walls of the core box. You get core box resin deposition, and that is an issue. Actually, every core box is supposed to be withdrawn from the machine after every 6 to 7 hours of working. You are supposed to take that core box out. You are supposed to clean the surface either by way of some liquids, but nowadays nobody uses that for larger core boxes. People use dry ice blasting, or it has to be ceramic blasting or glass bead blasting, but the core box has to be clean. And believe me, I would like to share a most important thing to you. Depending on volume of castings you have to make, volume of cores you have to make, at the stage of planning, one has to plan for multiple core boxes for one casting. Suppose I am making one particular block. I am supposed to give 500 blocks per day. And if my core shooter is giving me 250 blows per shift, I should have 2 sets of core box with me. And this customer approves. But only thing is that we have to convince it that we are taking care of their tool like this, and so we won't be able to make it. That we have to convince it to them, and customer support there. That is what is the world-class trend. Next. Other than brass, are there any other materials used for vents? If they, yes, there are woven wire mesh type vents, and there are slit type vents. Now, woven wire mesh type vents are there. They are made up of brass or they are made up of monel metal. Monel wire, and the body of the vent is made up of brass. These are better vents, and they give around 35% of opening area. They give almost 35% of the opening area with respect to the diameter of the vent. If you use 0.4 mm slit vent gives you around 14 to 16% of area only. But despite of that, slit vents are being used because they do not tend to buckle. The vents where I have seen where there are woven wire vents, they tend to buckle, and wherever the vents buckle, you get extra sand into that area. Then again you have to put a man and remove all those extra sand protrusions, and work gets increased. So instead of, and even some of the brass vents also buckle, slit type brass vents. But in that case, you can use stainless steel vents, which is a better option. And you should choose 0.4 mm opening slit vents. But when you fit that vent into the core box, the slit closes down to 0.2 mm or 0.25 mm. Please remember this. We say that 0.4 mm is the vent opening when the vent is there in open. When you put that vent into the core box, the 0.4 mm slit gets compressed and the slit is less. But that vent has to be cleaned, and best tool to clean that vent is any stationery store. Boys use a knife to sharpen the pencil, and that blade is 0.2 millimeter thick. It is very cheaply available. I would appeal to all to buy as many of them and give one to every worker. And he should clean the vents with that blade only. They must not use, most of the time they use hexa blade, which is much thicker. It is about 0.8 millimeter thick. So eventually, when they use that hexa blade, they land up in damaging the vent, and there will be a hole after maybe some time, and the whole purpose is wasted. Next question, please. How to design location of shooting in cold box core boxes? Yes. As far as vertical parting core box is concerned, the shooting location is already there. It is in the upper core print, and the core is going down and down. As far as horizontal parted core is concerned, the most suitable location again is the one where the depth of the core is more. And location by choice number one should be on the core prints, and next choice should be the place where the depth is more and on the body of the core, and the third choice should be on the core where the depth is shallow, because on shallow depth you will find a lot of wear of the core box in that area. And sand gets deflected when it after bouncing onto the other side of the core box. So we should avoid. These are rough guidelines of the thing, I can say. Up to what thickness of core can be produced cured in cold box core manufacturing process? Up to what thickness of cores can be produced? This has something to do with geometry of the core. Yes, this has something to do with the geometry of the core, but you know, as thick, I think Mahindra, you know, city transmission case is the best example where you can get massive core made. And transmission cases, clutch housing, where you can almost make cores up to, you know, 600 mm diameter or even 700 mm diameter by 800, 900 mm length. As big as that core can be shot onto the cold box core shooters, and nothing. Yeah, as far as my experience goes, we used to shoot 150 kg of cores in one go. Mahindra block, you know, 16 kg into 6 cores, almost 100, 110 kg of cores we used to shoot. But then that size was almost, you know, 120 mm or so thick from all the sides. But especially center housing cores are huge and they can be core. As far as least wall is concerned, we have made 3.5 mm water jacket cores for Hyundai block, and we have made it hundreds and hundreds of them every day. No issues. And I remember, perhaps Ramanan sir also remembers that in Solapur we were making an experiment, and the same shell core box which was meant for making water, we had used and made one cold box, I mean few cold box cores. So you can make up to 2.5 to 3 millimeter thick cores also, depending on how you use them, because there is a different logic about how to use those cores. You can't use them, you know, across buoyancy. You have to use them along buoyancy. Is this enough, Sandeep?
Yes, sir.
I have said that cores have to sustain through subsequent processes and handling. Next. Explain about cold box core river process, if any. I think Deshpande Sahab and Bhore Sahab have already replied to this, and I also have put up my viewpoint, and perhaps Ramanan sir's viewpoint also. You should put all those efforts to see that you make good cores. In the whole process, the whole company learns something new. And I want that when that happens, our condition will change. Indian foundry will change. Why don't we use return sand of certain percent from Huron processing? Never thought of it. My humble submission is, let's learn to make good cores with fresh sand, then cold box cores with some reclaimed, cold box reclaimed sand, and subsequently with Huron processed sand. So I couldn't get the logic why they want to use this sand. And if the sand is they, reclaimed, then it should, whether you use it for code box or use it for green sand or maybe for no-bake, shouldn't matter much. But it is, if the sand is just crushed, then you will have to think about it. What will be the optimum tooling design for core box vents and blow nozzles? Whether blow nozzles and vents are related to each other, how many vents and nozzles can be added to 1 cc area? Optimum design purely depends on the geometry of the core. Blow area is related mainly to weight of the core and distribution of blow nozzles to geometry. I think there is one more page to this. Yes. Blow area and vent area have a relationship. However, again, geometry in a sense, deep pockets, shallow, thin portions play a role in distribution. Blow area for HP as well as VP should be 3.5 square centimeter per kg to 5 square centimeter per kg of core weight. In horizontal parting, total vent area should be 0.7. Blow area for VP could be 0.7 times blow area. Okay. Now, HP total vent area could be 0.7 to 1.2. Here are two things. As far as horizontal parting is concerned, 0.7 should be the vent area for the gases which are exiting of the core box, and 1.2 should be the area for incoming of the gases, and that 1.2 should be the annular area of each of the blow tips and the upper pin inside it, plus additional vents added to that. So all that should be 1.2 of blow area, and exiting gases should be 0.7 after this. And another thing here, I think no one has asked, but from tooling design point of view and making good course point of view, I insist that every machine should have a suction unit, air suction unit attached to the bolster, and the whole system should be completely sealed. Then only you can get effective core density. Whether it is vertical parted or it's a horizontal parted, it has to have a suction unit, and the blower should suck that air. There are two advantages. One is you get partial vacuum inside the core box, which enable you to get denser core. At the same time, you suck away all smelly amine and send it to this thing, orthophosphoric acid tank. So this, everyone has to take care of this thing. I think smaller machines do not have that facility, but still you can see how you can add it there. Then we saw that VP, HP, VP as VP, okay. Amine inlet area could be 1.3 times blow area. Cure rate could be 3.6 to 6 kg per second for thick core. For thin cores, cure rate should be 1.4 kg per second. Yes, these are some of the basic design parameters. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Raman, sir.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody.
Yeah, good evening.
So what,
I think you have a long session, I think. You have a lot of explanation to do, less PPT and more explanation.
Myself, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Uh,
Your
yeah,
first
first of
question.
all, let me congratulate you for this 50th webinar.
Thank
This
you,
is
sir.
really doing a good job, to the interest of the foundry fraternity as a whole. And
It's basically teamwork that has
yeah.
bring all of us to this landmark.
I know. Yeah. And good evening, all people who gathered virtually. And also my wishes to the participants, the panelists. This next slide, the first slide. Can I have the first slide? This is in short the code box core making machine. Okay. It is very simple. I can very easily say that this consists of this, okay. But, the very purpose of having code box is faster core production. The code box process itself takes place in a few seconds, maybe about 10 seconds. Even small core can be a few seconds. Maybe bigger cores, more, maybe 20 seconds, something like that. But how to get the productivity of this process using a machine? Because of the faster nature of the process, the machine also has to be fast. In fact, the productivity of the machine is decided by the different process taking place in core making. That is inherent in the chemical reaction and the tool design law. So the whole machine is designed with good engineering. Okay, a lot of engineering goes into the production of a cold box core making machine, and tooling. That the tooling required for this cold box process is also, it should match the characteristics of the core making machine, and the whole engineering is built up on the machine. Okay, so if you ask me simply, it consists of a sand hopper. When it says sand hopper, the design of the sand hopper, as Avinash pointed out, should be in such that the whole sand is consumed within the bench life of the machine. So if it is a very small course, you have a bigger hopper, that means you are going to take a long time, and then you are going to end up with the sand getting out of bench life, and you will have other problems. Okay. Then you have a moving trolley normally, which alternates between shooting head and the gassing plate. Okay. The port box can be vertically potted or horizontally potted. That depends on your convenience of core making. Okay, and also the machine design. Okay. The machine can be designed for vertical potting or horizontal potting. I think this Avinash is a good topic for Avinash. He's an expert in core making and core making machines also. Okay. So now the first process is shooting head moves over the code box, and sand mix is then shot into the code box along with the dry color. After the mold material has been shot via the shooting head, which is pressed into the code box. First, it comes on the box and it is pressed, and core sand on the hopper is shot into the cavity by means of blow plates. Blow plates consists of nozzles, shooting nozzles. This shooting nozzle design also very important. It can have a shooting candle outside the core, or it can have depressed nozzles, which will just get cut on the surface. Okay. You need not cut the candles later. Then after shooting, the shooting design, the core box design for shooting, all those things have been explained by Avinash Joshi. Then the gassing plate along with the gassing unit comes under core box. Then the gassing plate must be sealed well and constructed in such a way that the amine gas can penetrate all areas of the core evenly. Normally, the air vents cover 3 to 5% of the core box surface to ensure a good, even ventilation of the core. The larger the ventilation cross section, the lower the flow resistance during gassing and the faster the core hardens. Then after the core gas is passed, the amine doesn't react. Of course, amine helps the reaction of the resin and this hot part 1 and part 2, and you get a good core in the box. Then the moving half is tilted or taken out, and then the core is ejected on the receiving trolley, which is normally kept on the bottom. So the once the core is taken out, then it is removed from the area by means of the either conveyor belt or the trolley. So there is one more important part in the machine, the cold box core machine, is the amine extraction. That is, amine. If you see, the amine does not take part in the reaction. It helps the reaction of part 1 and part 2. The whole amine along with the air has to come out. You normally an exhaust system is a sort of a cold box core machine, and it's the whole gases, everything is removed by a suction unit from the bottom. In the smaller machines, it is enclosed thoroughly, and air curtain is done to remove the amine gases from the whole area. So one more aspect in this is the holding pressure of the core box. The holding pressure of the core box is very important. Otherwise, you are going to end up with the core which is oversized. See, the gassing plate must be, go to back, okay? Go back, okay. So core box is clamped hydraulically, which prevents the core box from moving during the shooting and gassing process. The machine should be designed in such a way the clamping pressure, that is holding pressure, is more than the required blow pressure. You can calculate the loading, load required as the surface area multiplied by the pressure you are going to shoot with. So the higher the shooting pressure you are going to have, you should have a counter hydraulic pressure, which is more than the shooting load. Okay, so this is very important because otherwise you will end up with the thicker cores, maybe 1 millimeter, 2 millimeter, or even the gas, air escaping and sand escaping from the parting line of the core boxes. So this is in short the cold box core making. This may look very simple, but it's got a lot of engineering going into the machine design, and with a lot of PLC controls which control the different process of the core making machine in a sequential way and with the limit controls and all. Okay. Yeah, next. Next. Yeah, this is the explanation of that. Next. Yeah. Whether addition rates of binder will change with respect to seasons. Yes, the additions will change in some of the seasons. The real challenge lies in controlling the temperature of the sand and the reduction of the bench life of the prepared sand, especially in summer. The reaction of the cold box process is definitely affected by the temperature of the atmosphere and also the sand. It makes it very fast, and you will be having less bench life of the sand, of the prepared sand. So the best way is to control the temperature of the sand. This can be done by in a big foundries. You have what you call the sand cooler and all. Okay, or in a small foundries you can have a shaded area whereby you can control the sand temperature, and it doesn't. Another way is to control the mixing cycle also, so that it doesn't get heated up. Okay. And one more important point is to prepare only the required quantity of mix, which can be consumed very immediately, especially in summer. During the rainy season, the humidity makes a lot of havoc on the properties of the cold box sand. Generally, equal proportions of part 1 and part 2 are used. But during a rainy season, you may require slightly higher amounts of part B. They may be say 1 to 1.1. But in winter in India, especially down south and maybe even up to Delhi, winter is not going to create much problem. Yes, it will have a problem in the beginning of the say day, in the morning. But once you start the process, that will get sorted because a lot of heat can be generated during sand mixing process and all. It doesn't affect very much. So you need not change the addition rate during winter. Yeah, next question. We are doing alcohol-based paint for our cold box course. Some time ago, our customer insisted for water-based paint. What is the difference? What are the disadvantages of alcohol-based paint? See, some people say this alcohol-based paint have a better properties. You've got because it has got the lower surface tension characteristics. It can have a good penetration inside the grains of the sand. Okay. So it has got when you use alcohol-based paint, you get better penetration and also a good layer of paint on the surface. Okay, you can have a very good shiny surface. But we always suggest isopropyl alcohol. Okay, but if there is a constellation of paint in some places, more, if it's not painted properly, you may lead to paint spalling when you use alcohol-based paint. Water-based paint is by far the best paint because it's versatile. It can be formulated for any type of painting method, and it is safe, environmental friendly. The dipping process, pour-over process, gives best results in water-based paint. But only thing is that thorough drying is a must. The course must be completely cured before the water wash is given. Because the water causes the weakening of the sand to binder. So normally we say that the pores must be painted after 1 hour because the cold box course gain strength over a period of time. Up to 1 hour, if you see the tensile strength and tensile pieces strength immediately and after 1 hour, there will be a slight increase in the strength. So it is preferable to have washing after 1 hour when it attains the full strength. But it must be dried immediately. The more it is left soaked, then the bonding of the core gets spoiled. What is the exact reaction taking place between part A, part B, and amine? This is actually the chemical people who are making this, they should explain. But still, I'll just make a point. It consists of part 1 is resin, part 2 is hardener, and part C, there is amine, is a catalyst. So resin binder is basically a phenol formaldehyde polymerate condensate dissolved in blend of aliphatic and aromatic solvents. They are chemicals. That is basically aromatic solvents. Part B consists of an isocyanate, mainly methylene diphenyl diisocyanate blended in again some solvents. The part C, that is a catalyst, is a triethylamine or dimethylethylamine. The part A, mainly this phenolic resin, gives you an hydroxyl group, which chemically combines with isocyanate in the presence of an amine catalyst. As I told you, amine is only a catalyst. It doesn't go into the reaction, and then the reaction products are a solid urethane resin. This binds the grains together and gives the cold box the unique properties of high strength and in a very short time. More details can be got from the resin manufacturer. Will be able to explain better. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Okay. Please, first question. How much ADV and pH of silica sand? Actually, ADV should be 0, but Indian sand sources are having around 2 to 2.5, which results actually it increases the demand of part B additions. So
there are echoes from your phone.
Now it is clear?
Yes.
Still it is echo?
Little bit.
Yes, it is still there.
Okay, so ADV value should be 0 actually. And Indian sand, I don't know why it is there is echo.
Perhaps, okay.
The which sources we are having in India, these are having around 2 to 2.5. Actually, all these ADV increases because of some additives, like what you can say for that, these are the carbonates, potassium carbonate, magnesium carbonate, sodium carbonate. So this, because of the carbonates, it increases the demand of part B. So which, if it is lesser, addition will be lesser. So pH of sand should be it should be nearer to 7, or that is a neutral. If it is there, we have to use the wash sand for core making. So generally for core wash sand is preferable, as it is not washed, then it has effect to the additions and strength of the sand. Next question. What should be the good cycle time for mixing of core sand? Actually, see, mixing sand should be part A and part B should mix, and as minimum is better. Actually, in our mixer conditions, 2 to 3 minutes is required. But when ideal mixers, it may be in 1 or 1.5 minutes also. You have to take the bench type of sample. And you have to take the immediate strength. If you are getting in 1 or 1.5 minutes also, it is better. But 2 to 3 minutes are required in our mixer conditions. Next question. What is the nitrogen content in part B? It is 70 ppm approximately. Approximately 70 ppm. Next. Our customer is asking up to go for one, but our requirements are maximum 500 to 600 kg. So whether it will be commercially viable to go for this core one. See, there are small batch type ones are available in the market. Actually, when you go for one, it will definitely have more cost as compared to if you compare with the isopropyl alcohol painting. But see, why their customer is demanding, you have to think of it, because see, your customer has required only good casting. It doesn't require that what the paint you are using. If they are getting some variation in the surface finish, then only they can demand such a type. So I think you have to take care for that. But if they insist for that, or that is the requirement of the customer, then you have to go for that small batch type ones also. There are nowadays, I think in Europe, I heard that there are some micro type techniques has come, and I don't know the economics for that, but these are the good one which doesn't require that fuels. These are electricity used for the drying of the core, and it is used for continuous type also, and it can use for your core, small core requirements are there. I think next question. Preventive maintenance measure for productivity. Actually, it starts with the mixer. So you have to decide the frequency of the cleaning of mixer, then calibration of the additions of part A, B, and see, mainly you have to see the gap between the floor, the blades of the mixer. It should not be more than 2 mm. Why I am insisting that? Because if that gap is more, because some unmixed sand is one layer will be there always at the bottom, or what are the additions are there, it goes to the bottom, and some lumps of resin or hardener will be there. And when discharge is there, with load of that, it can come in the mixer. And so you may face any problem. Also, there will be improper mixing also in the sand. So that mixer cleaning is very important. I think everybody should, at the starting of work or first shift or the day shift, it depends on the use, you should do mixer cleaning and calibration every day. You can make a CISO calendar also, that who has done it, at what time you have done it, and supervisor or any senior or head of that section, he should check that, does it that being monitored or not. Actually, gap between shell and blade, what I have told, that you have to check. Also, greasing of the mixer or all these pairs, etc. maintain. It's to avoid the only breakdowns. Also, there is a parallelity of both machines, both halls. There is one is a fix up, another is a moving halves. And as our loading and unloading of the machine, you have to, before that loading the machine, you have to check that. There are parallelity, some gauges are there, and you have to check that. Also, cleaning of the machines. Cleaning of the machine is very important. at the starting of the or while completion of the work, you should clean the machine. And you have to check that pressure and dial gauges are functioning properly. If it's not there, you have to correct it. Then calibration of amine pump and temp is also very important, because how much amine is coming per second, you have to calibrate. I think if you do every day, that will be better, because how much amine is required, that timer setting, you have to calculate only for that discharge of pump only. And the temperature of these gauges, what are all these gauges are being calibrated as per their frequency. You have to see that. These are also preventive measures for that. Also, after shooting and exhaust walls, that you need not check daily, but once in a week you have to check for that. And after complete preventive maintenance or any work or maintenance work has to be carried out in the machine, you have to take the dry cycle for that. Rather everything is working smooth or not. Also for productivity, worker skill is also very, very important. You have to train the people, for their operations, and general knowledge for how that machine is working and how core is being made, why this is required, what has to take care has to be taken. Also, safety is very important for the new operators. Next, how to set shooting time and gassing time? Is there any specific way to calculate it? Actually, shooting time should be ideally it is 0.25 to 0.5 seconds. But in our conditions, that means Indian machine conditions, it lies 0.5 to 2 seconds. And see, to make the 1 kg core, 1 cc amine is required. So according to that, if you calibrate the amine pump, you know how much cc is coming per second, and you know the core of the weight. By that calculation, you can decide that how much gassing time has to be kept. Then calibrate. Therefore, I have said that the calibration of discharge of amine quantity per second, you have to take it, and respectively considering the weight of the core, you can set the timing of the amine pump. Next question. Many times sand gets speckled out of the cold box machine, and also we observed some waste sand coming out of the cold box. So can we use it again, mixing regularly? See, first of all, I will recommend that we should avoid that speckling of the sand. And if it is sand spillage, if it is a wet, your shop floor is very clean. If it is not mixed with the dust, we can use it. See, after all, the sand bench life averagely it around 30 minutes. You are not considering that summer or winter like this, but approximately is a 30 minutes. So if you use within 30 minutes, it is always better. But if you are making very less wall thickness core or critical cores, I will not recommend it for that. But if you are making heavy cores, more than 30-40 kg, like housings or like this, for that you can reuse it. Or else you have to collect the sand and you have to mix with again sand which you are preparing. After making the batch, you have to add there and you have to remix it without addition of resin adder. And I think you can use it again. Next question. Rejected cores can be crushed and used for making core by proper screening through desired mesh. Is there any increase or decrease in binder amine consumptions while using it, while using reclaimed sand? Yes, rejected sand can be crushed, and with proper screening, it can be used. I think in Kolhapur area, some the people are trying for that. In Gadge Patil also, they are using around 15 to 20%. Also, at the reclaimed sand has some resins and that part A, part B are there. So you have to check that what is the LOI in that. Accordingly, you have to add. I think in normal case, if you are adding 0.9, so if you add at 0.8 also, you can achieve the strength. You can reduce that, but again, you have to check the strength. Why strength is required? Because this is only handling strength. So immediate strength, what you are getting is a very important. So you have to check batch samples and accordingly you can decide for that. It requires actually less addition, what I have told, but amine required is the same. You can't reduce the amine added. Okay, next one.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Hand over to Mr. Ga. What are the any other questions
Yeah, we'll take at the end. Yeah,
that I could do? I will be answer.
yeah. Gokhale sir, you are on the line.
No place.
Yes, Gokhale sir.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
The mechanism has been already explained by Ramanan sir. Basically, a phenol formaldehyde resin is reacted with isocyanate. It forms a bond, and gaseous amine cures it, and you get a strength. Actually, it is a polymer chemistry subject, and just I'm giving you the brief, because to explain it, one has to understand the polymer chemistry also. Just like that, we cannot explain it, but the basic mechanism is a resin reacts with a isocyanate, it forms a bond, and to get a strength or a stringent bond, it is cured with the amine, and you get a good strength. Or that is all the mechanism of that one. Everything I have explained in that. Next question. What is the trend of future binders and how they will improve safety, productivity, and quality in cold box? See, basically, nowadays in Germany or in some of the European foundries, low addition, eco-friendly cold box binders are available. Basically, the trend is in the cold box technologies to reduce the formaldehyde emissions, specifically from the drying ovens, by reduction in VOC by higher boiling point solvents, vegetable esters, and ethyl silicates as a carrier. But in India, the biggest problem is the ambient conditions, and what I have seen in this 20, 25 years, any new, forgive me, but I have to speak it. Whenever we go for a new development, the Indian foundrymen tend to ask a specific question related to the Bajaj, kitna deti hai, kitna chalti hai. So cold box is not like that. You go on reducing. You have to give sufficient resin and catalyst to achieve a good strength, a handling strength, and then secondary holding strength. Now in Germany and some of the European countries, they have started using some new solvent esters and vegetable solvents to get rid of this formaldehyde decomposition, because which is very harmful. To related with safety, if we are able to control the VOC, then health hazardous parameters can be controlled. Related to the productivity, basically, if we can use DMPA or another high type of amines, that will give us a good productivity, because this in entire world, India is the only country where we use a triethylamine, but anywhere else in the world, people use either DMPA or DMEA, those type of solvents. But we have some good product with us. In PEA, we have modified some of the reactions, and we can give you a safe product for as far as the health is concerned. And the productivity, basically, it all depends on the like Avinash Joshi sir or Gore sir has told. Basically, productivity depends on the overall your system performance. Your machines are too good. If there are scrubbers are available, the holding pressure is good, you can get very easily a good productivity, because productivity is a subjective matter. With a very old technology machine, you cannot expect a good product or a good productivity. Next question. Hello.
It is answered. Yes.
Next question. Yeah, with this new binders, in particularly in cold box, now we have new 2-3 products in pipeline where the additions can be brought down. Like if you are right now, if you are using say around 0.9 to 1%, with the new developed binders, you can bring it to 0.7 to 0.8, means around a 15% reduction will be there, and it gives the same strength which you are using in the regular old system. And moreover that, one question was there on why we cannot use Furon sand. I just want to answer it. Basically, when every foundryman knows that when we check the we want to make any cold box, we in the sand we first check the alloy of the sand, the fresh sand or any sand, and whatever from the foundryman's angle view, we tend to say that it should be less than 0.5 or 0.7. But if you go for a Furon reclaimed sand, non-thermally mechanically reclaimed sand, the least value you will be getting will be 3.2% alloy. So when you use this Furon sand, your 0-hour strength may be good, but when you go for a oven dry, dipping and oven drying, ultimately the strengths drop and cores will not hold the pressure, metal pressure, or they will not withstand in the melting process. So that's why some people have tried it, but they have stopped it. Then the question was on the gum. See, when you use any type of silicate gum or some nowadays on the Amazon, people have found that some rubber gums also. The basic need is when you put, if the gum is drying very slowly, there is a trend that it expands slightly. And if you don't apply a proper pressure on the core or on the joining part, there may be a lift in the joining part. You can get a parting line there. So it is better to use a faster setting gum because it sets in hardly 15 to 20 minutes. And the best example is Menon and Gadge Patil. They are using these gums very effectively, particularly for the water jacket assembly course. Yeah, Sandeep, over.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your good inputs. Now, while last webinar was there, and after that we have asked many people to give their questions. Even some questions were there in last. So when I was collecting all these questions, I thought every panelist or every expert have different views. We have seen some different views on repairing of cores, then core rejection, and all these things. So I thought, why can't we go for a survey where Indian foundries can give their inputs and we can understand generally what is happening right now in Indian foundries. So I thought that, and last month, last 2 weeks, I have tried to make a link and collected this data. So I'm happy to present this data in front of you right now. So the first question was, what is the A part binder used? And the answers what we get is majority of that is 56% of people are saying it is 0.8 to 1%. So I think majority people are within limit and they are quite efficient in their A part binder and B part binder, we can say. So I think this part of particular survey looks to be quite good and quite impressive one. The next two questions were percentage amine used. So 60% of people saying it is 0.2 to 0.3%, which is also quite good, I think, in Indian conditions and Indian tooling conditions, especially. So, next question was average bench life, which was again a question of debate last time also. Most of the people, that is 51% people say it is from 1 day to 1 week. 37% say it is 1 month. And about 10% people say within 1 day. So we can say average more than 51% people are saying it is 1 day to 1 week. So it is almost, we can say 61% people are using their course in just within a span of 1 week. Next question is, what is the scratch hardness you get? 43% of the people say it is between 60 to 70, and almost 35% people say it is between 50 to 60. So we can say roughly 50 to 70 is the almost 17.8% of people are using scratch hardening, getting the scratch hardness between 50 to 70. The AFS of the sand, what they are using, it is between 90% people say it is between 50 to 60, which I think is enormous thought process come from all of the countrymen. This was again a question of debate last time. So average core rejection. So core rejection on machine itself, 56% saying it is 1 to 3%. And almost 26% saying it is 3 to 5%. 18% are saying it is below 1%. Next question was core breakage during the handling and transport from core shop to the production. And 40% of the participants of people are saying it is below 1%. Then 39% people saying it is 1 to 3%. So if you combine it, I think it is almost 4 to 5% of minimum rejection at core machine and plus breakage. We can say around 3 to 5%. Next question is percentage of waste sand in core making process. So 47% people say it is below 1%. So it looks to be very good. Then how much percent of reclaimed sand we are using? I think this is a very, I got little bit surprised with the answers, because almost 40% people are saying it is below 25%, and 30% people are saying 0. 20% people are saying it is between 25 to 50%, and 10% people are saying it is above 50%. So we have to really improve in that area. Which paint do you use for core painting? So almost 56% are using water base, 44% are using alcohol base. Do you have a core oven for core baking? So 74% people are saying that yes, we have a core oven, and 26% people doesn't have a core oven for their baking of their cores. Next question is which painting technology or method you use for core painting? Unanimously 89% people say dipping, 7% people say spray, and 4% are saying brush. So it is almost dipping 89%. Next question was how many percentage of cores do you paint? Almost 75%, 40% of people are saying it is above 75% core they are painting. So only 25% they are core they are not painting and using directly. Around 30% people are saying around 50% of core they are painting and 50% they are using directly. So this is a small survey that we have conducted. And now we can go to the chat box. There are again few questions are there. So we'll take those questions. I want to know how much the paint penetration in the cold wash core and shell core. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Yeah.
I have not checked it, but it around not checked. So it is Gore or somebody should answer. I have not checked it.
Hello, which is question? Yes, please.
How much should be the paint penetration in the cold wash core?
It should not be more than 1 mm actually. It should not more than 1.
I think last time also it has been answered. I hope.
Same question.
Yeah.
Because you have to because after dipping the core, you have to immediately send for a drying.
Correct.
Actually, we should not allow to penetrate because how if penetration is more, it has loosened the strength.
Correct.
The skin hardness, or you can say surface hardness. So as it is minimum, it will be better. So you have to dip the core or paint the core, and you have to send for drying immediately, and you have to minimize that time.
Yes, on this background, I would like to share while composing all these figures and data and question answer session, I realized that I have to do something on that, and that is why I've started one experiment at our end also. I've make a validation type of experiment which is under process right now. I have taken one batch with proper measure of sand, additives, everything, and then I asked them to take 0 minute, 1 hour, 24 hours, and subsequently 30 days scratch hardness, and then cut down those 3 cores after painting. What is the thickness? So that experiment is going on. Whenever I will complete that experiment, I will share the results on with the group as well. So next question is which type sand required for the cold box core making is well, means which AFS? I think its answer is already given in
It is a
the
50 to 60.
survey. Yeah,
Yeah,
50 to 60 will be the better.
that is a better. Yeah.
Yes, DMA also, I think Mr. Gokhale sir has already told DMA is, I think, smell-free amine, isn't it? Sandhopper and machine sand magazine cleaning is also important. Okay, that is
Already.
Can we use chromite or zircon sand for core box core making?
Yes, in some part we can use it. Yes, in some part.
But
can
it is
help.
having more density.
Okay.
Both are having more density, so it will create the problem basically. Zircon sand is having ban basically.
Yes, that's true.
Chromite sand normally it is used for steel foundries, but it can be used. But again, the question of porous core will come basically. Now there are good paints that can be that are solving the problems basically. Normally chromite sand is used in steel foundries to get the good surface finish, but now paint quality is improved. I think that is not necessary to use chromite sand.
How much strength is not is mentioned, and also scratch hardness?
Pardon?
There's no question there. Core transport handling is a big challenge in every foundry. Yeah, it is true, very true. Paint penetration must be 100 to 150 micron.
Yeah.
I think all the questions are completed. Hopefully, I'm not seeing many more questions there. Anybody I want to ask any questions?
The core transport is the biggest problem in all the foundries.
Yes, that's true. It is basically related to the infrastructure and all these things.
Correct. So in fact, many foundries have a problem of more core rejection because they don't have a good core handling process. Okay. So the best way to transport cores is by using trolleys and pallet rolls. Okay. So in fact, now some people, big foundries like Hinduja foundries, they tried with sort of a slat conveyor. They failed miserably. When you have trolleys and pallet rolls, you can move them. Of course, the flow, for very good floor is a must. Okay. You can move them at your pace, at your speed, and at your time very easily. If you have a fixed path, then you will be stuck. So best way is to use trolleys and pallet wheels.
Yeah. One more question is there. What is the RA value of cold box tooling?
Yeah.
Somebody has answered. It should be
Yeah, it will
0.4.
be 0.4 RA. So, okay, thank you very much. I just wait for 1 or 2 minutes. If any questions are there. I request Sadanand sir to give their feedback, I think, on today's webinar, because we are trying a very new type of activity here. And so a couple of people should give their feedback so that we can improve in future topics like this.
Sandeep ji, the best part of the today's webinar is your survey. Whatever survey you have conducted, that has given us the overall average of Indian foundry industry where their cold box is being used. And that helps in the people who are taking the core making by cold box to decide what type of process they should use. And that has helped a lot to everybody. Apart
And
from,
what is
pardon, sorry.
and what is the benchmark in India it is
Benchmarking.
going on, and what
Yeah.
should be our target?
Yeah, that has given, because normally what happens, we ask what should be the benchmark, kitna hona chahiye, kaisa hona chahiye. It has given now already our standard, Indian standard. Because whatever now, as of now, what we were thinking was based on the European standards. That's why the people used to say that cold box is hygroscopic and this and that all. Because of their weather conditions, those parameters were decided. But as per our parameters, our weather conditions, we have decided the parameters based on this survey report. So it was very good thing. And I'm really thankful to all the panelists for giving their knowledge and sharing their knowledge. And it's very important. I thank everybody.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So with this, we conclude today's webinar. So our next Dynamic Foundry Group webinar is on 15th of August. So it's a very special day, as we have a very special guest with us, Mr. Vishwanathan from Amarun Foundry, Coimbatore. And he will be talking on green and clean foundry technology. So we hope 15th August is a holiday, so people can gather in a large number, and that is why we have kept this particular specific seminar on 15th of August. So let us meet again on 15th of August for Dynamic Foundry Group webinar. But in between, we have many webinars conducted for this MSME, that is GIZ, which I am also sending you invitations on melting, and even non-ferrous. We are conducting a couple of webinars in coming week. So I will be sharing that link to you as well. So kindly join us for that webinar also. Thank you very much, and good night for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir.